Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Medicare Cafe pre-chat with your hosts. My name's Olivia Richardson.
And I'm Carrie Vogt.
I like that we do this now.
Good morning.
This brings me joy. So, before we get to...
And Brian, I don't have a cinnamon roll. I have a cinnabon today.
Ooh, bringing in the sass already. I was going to say, I literally this morning, I was like, I can wear my hair up on my head. And I was like, it's cafe. Brian's going to be mean to me if I do.
Bring it on.
Do that.
Bring it on, Brian.
Bring it on.
I'm ready.
So first of all, I'm going to pull up my text messages. For any of you guys who want to interact with us and ask us any lingering questions, that's what the pre-chat is for. We just get on a little bit early to kind of talk about industry updates, things that are going on. Sometimes we would talk about what we had for breakfast. Today I ruined a bowl because it was not microwave safe. No one told me. But again, if you guys want to go ahead, you can text the number below here, or you can comment on the YouTube page and we'll read those live as they come. I'm going to give this to you.
Did you see my text about we got an email from United Healthcare about the CMS drug finder not working?
A shocker.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's because I have thoughts, but I don't know that any of them are correct.
Okay.
So again, so that everybody knows what's going on, CMS just sent out an email, and actually it wasn't even CMS. It was United Healthcare Jarvis sent out an email saying that the CMS drug lookup tool is not working. Like, the drugs are not accurate, the tool is not working. And so again, it's I did find out that it's not affecting Jarvis, it's not affecting Medicare Center, it's not affecting Medicare app or Medicare Link. Good. So all of those tools are fine. It's literally just Medicare.gov, just CMS. And I know I'm being a little sassy about it, but that's kind of on brand for them. When they made the switch from using Connecture as their background, Medicare Center, the same platform that runs Medicare app and Medicare Center, used to run CMS, used to run Medicare.gov site. Yes. About in 2019, Medicare.gov was like, we think we can do it better, and gave Connecture, which is that platform, gave Connecture the boot. Okay. Ever since then, it has been a hot mess. Drugs are not accurate. They're not pulling correctly. Every single year, there's always a plan. And it's like the big name brands. It's not even the small carriers. It's like the United Healthcare. They're like,
wrong.
Yeah, they say these plans are actually not even going to be uploaded into this list until 2 weeks into AEP.
Well, that's what I didn't understand. The email said, we know they're going to be wrong until June. I'm like, that's a long time away. Why can't you fix things faster?
It's literally they
And why did it come from United Healthcare?
Because CMS isn't going to tell anybody. Again, it's because CMS and Medicare, back whenever it was Connecture, they used to update everything weekly and just double check, because things like that shouldn't change, but formularies will change, things like that. So they would update it weekly. Now CMS will only update theirs every 2 to 4 weeks. So that's why you're seeing that.
Interesting.
So...
Hello, Richard.
Hi, Richard. Good morning, Rick. Good to see you on again. But yeah, so again, that's something to keep in mind. If you guys are, again, using Medicare.gov or even My Medicare to help people shop and enroll into PDP or Medicare Advantage plans, just know that it's incorrect. The drugs are not correct on there
correctly
right now. There was another thing that you asked me about, too. Let me go back to my text messages.
Yes. I had, it was just a good story.
Yeah, I want to hear. Yeah, it was a story about your pharmacy.
I have a client who has terminal cancer, and sorry, this is a good story, but
I was really excited and giddy, and then you say terminal cancer.
Sorry.
Okay, cool.
It gets better.
Okay.
He takes tons of really, really, really expensive drugs. Just 2 of his inhalers alone are $600 a month. And so,
wow.
He's right on the board. He doesn't qualify yet for any extra help. And so we've been looking at coupons and all this stuff. And so I have developed a pretty good connection with a pharmacy in town. And I called them and I was like, do you have any ideas of how I can get this cheaper? I've used this avenue, and I could not find the drug manufacturer for one of them, the assistance program application. I found it for one of them, but he was like, let me see what I can do. And he was able to get samples.
Really?
He got samples.
That's insane. What pharmacy? Was it a local pharmacy?
It was a local pharmacy.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes sense for being a local one because they're a lot of times more willing. They have the time and they're more willing to do that kind of stuff compared to like a Walgreens, Walmart, CVS.
Well, I just thought that was so nice. Mm-hmm. And it pays that I took the time to call him. You know, I mean, I was just going out. That was the last thing I thought he was going to do. Was say he can get some samples.
What pharmacy was that for any like the Columbia Pizza?
It was Flo's.
I knew it. I always hear great things about those local little mom and pop pharmacies. Yeah. I'll say this, like, I love that story. I love that it's like you just go that extra step. I guarantee you're gonna have a lifelong client, and that agent's gonna feel really, or that pharmacy's gonna be like, oh wait, like you help your people. Here are these others. Mom and pop pharmacies, due to, again, a lot of the things going on behind the scenes with the wholesalers and medication and just big pharma in general, they're really going to struggle in the upcoming years. Things are getting really, really bad. You're seeing, like, again, a lot of these pharmacies, like these giant pharmacies are now coming up with their own mail order systems. They're now coming up with their own wholesalers. It's really becoming an issue for them. So one thing that I love to do, it's a really good networking opportunity for those mom and pops, is to say, like, hey, if you let me know, if you have somebody who is having a hard time paying for those medications or has questions on their Medicare, if you send them to me, like, it's a priority for them to stay with you, I'll put them on a plan that fits you guys best. So, like, you know, we'll make sure that they're getting taken care of, they have something, but, like, I'm not going to push mail order on them. I'm not going to put them on a plan that only requires Walgreens. Like, you know, so it's a really great way to be like, let me handle those questions, but I'll make sure that they can continue to go to you because they love you as a pharmacy.
Exactly. Yeah, and he's sent me probably 10 clients since AEP.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's been a really good relationship.
That's wild. Yeah. Well, on that note, again, guys, it is 10 o'clock. So we have just wrapped up the Medicare Cafe pre-chat where, again, Carrie and I just kind of jump on here a little early and go over some industry things, updates, things like that. Today on Medicare Cafe, we are going to be talking about how to shop Medicare supplements, because this is something that I've seen take a pretty dramatic change from when I started. I started the industry in 2013.
Really?
And to see it kind of start from where it was literally like, what plan F? What's the cheapest plan F? Put them on the cheapest plan F. Whenever like call centers and like virtual agencies started coming into the mix, it was all about what's the cheapest plan F and how do you get them on that. And it was just like a really constant cycle. Like, man, the average MedLife policy wasn't. Average Medicare supplement policy lifespan was actually pretty short because there was a lot of churning.
Really?
So that's what we wanted to talk about today. So again, if you do want to interact with us, again, there is our text line. Feel free to text us your questions. If you want to add your name in there as well so we know we can address you so you know exactly who we're talking to. Or feel free to actually put a comment in the YouTube page as well. We'll read those live. But again, this is something that I used to, whenever I did a lot of tradings in the past, was something that was actually kind of like polarizing. And it was specifically because what I used to talk about was that with Medicare supplements is not all about price.
Right.
Which is hard to hear because they're standardized. A plan F with one company is a plan F with another, same old. And so a lot of agents, I don't want to say like feel attacked, but like that's how most agents who were unexperienced with sales sold a med sup.
Yeah.
It was all about what's the cheapest plan. And they trained their agents, they trained their clients to be like, I'm always going to put you on the lowest med sup premium. You know what? You don't have to worry about it. You're going to be kept on the lowest med sup premium. I will shop that for you, no worries. However, what we found out was a lot of these carriers would come out with like plans that were not available to agents. And so we found out that like they would be advertising and the premiums would be lower than what an independent agent could offer.
Oh, goodness.
And so then then you're training your clients like, hey, my value to you is just to keep you on a cheap plan. I can't bring you that value anymore.
Right.
So I don't have that value. And so it was training it is also training clients. And again, with the rise of call centers were trained to only look at price. So whenever there's like, oh, your agent has you on a plan that's 50, 50, that's ridiculous. Has you on a plan that's $120 a month. I have a plan here that's $115. $5 a month. That's $60 a year. Like that's not. Well, that's more than $60 a year. 72. I don't math. Anyways, it is $60 a year.
$60, yeah.
No.
Wait.
It's $75 a year.
5 times 12.
Why 12? Anyways.
Didn't you say 12?
No, I did.
For a year?
I'm lying. For a year, it is.
It's
Anyways,
60.
it's $60 more a year. I'm not here to math, okay? I'm here to teach the people about Medicare supplements. So it's $60 a year. That's not like a tremendous amount of money. $60 a year to change is not worth the paper that takes, right? But you trained your clients that price was the most important thing when shopping med sups, so they're much more likely to switch just to save that $60.
So I always, when I start talking about a Medicare supplement, I should have brought my book with me, but I always use the Medigap handbook, and I highlight at the bottom where I probably have it memorized by now, but it says, all Medigap plans are standardized, and then it says cost is usually the only difference, or it says they're standardized, they have to offer the same basic benefits. And so I use that to say, these are standardized, okay? Every Plan G is going to look the same. But, and I especially do this when, I do it for all of them. But if you have somebody that is really brand loyal to an insurance carrier, you really can't just go on cost. I mean, I'll say that, they're standardized. There might be one that's cheaper, but what's important to you? Some people have had Blue Cross and Blue Shield their whole life.
Right.
That is what they want. That is what they're comfortable with. I've had some people pay like $60 higher for Mutual of Omaha because that they're comfortable with that brand.
It's everything. Again, it's especially with the baby boomer demographic. There's so much, and the reason why brands are so important to us as humans is because we're familiar with them.
Right.
And there's trust and familiarity.
Absolutely.
And so again, even we know everybody will have their, sometimes brands can work against them. Like if somebody was on like a UHC group plan and they felt like they got shorted, then they're never gonna buy, even though it's not the same thing. That does happen. But again, it just speaks to how important brand is to a lot of people.
Well, and the clients that I have specifically, they've been really brand loyal and have chosen something that's significantly higher. I'll point that out and I'll say, okay, just know that I'm here to tell you, there are things lower. So just so you're picking this, even though they are standardized, so they don't see something else or get stolen away from some advertisement, that there are things lower, but you're choosing this for these reasons that are important to you.
Think about it like this. Again, I know Dan Mangus actually, who is now the president or vice president of growth and development at Senior Marketing Specialist, when he taught this lesson, he always used Morton Salt. He said, everybody knows Morton Salt, the one with the girl and she's dropping the salt behind her. They said there's a million salt companies who actually make salt at the same place as Morton Salt. There's not it's a chemical. It's not like a thing that is different than the other. It's a chemical makeup.
It's literally the same.
Exactly, but people, said, overwhelmingly buy Morton Salt, even though it's right next to the generic, because that's what they're used to. That's what they're familiar with.
Yep.
So that's why, again, it is really important to find out what is important to your consumers. I always say when it comes to Medicare supplement, do you need to offer 60 Medicare supplement carriers? Absolutely not.
Right.
I recommend that you have two types of Medicare supplements. You need to have the big boys, the United Healthcares, Humanas, Anthems, Aetnas. You need to have the ones that carry weight. But then you also, because there's people who are going to buy on brand, but then you also need to make sure you have what we always call the ankle biters, the ones that might be a flash in the pan. As long as you set the expectation that hey, this is cheap now, it may not be cheap in 5 years.
Right.
So again, you do have to offer both of those because there's two types of clients.
I feel like my go-to is I probably do 5.
I
feel like there's 5 that I show them,
I don't know why I did this.
Yeah,
I'm going to stop doing that.
I've never really counted, but it's probably
HR.
5. It's probably 5.
Probably 5. That makes sense. That's honestly, we say 3 to 5.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And plus, you do have such a wide, you have very affluently, very less price-conscious people than you have the people who are, pinch every penny. So that makes sense. So again, the first thing when it comes to shopping a Medicare supplement, I just want to clarify, is actually figuring out, do they actually want a Medicare supplement?
Make sure that they know the difference.
I feel like, how many of your clients that you talk to say, oh yeah, I want a supplement, but they're actually describing an Advantage plan because they're getting something like their friend's, neighbor's, dog walker's cousin has.
Yes. And it's just the verbiage. People don't know. They think... I think they almost think it's just a secondary or a supplement.
Well, it's supplements by Medicare, even though it's an Advantage.
Exactly. So yes, again, goes back to educating everybody right from the beginning.
Now,
on the pathways.
here's my sales process, Carrie. And you and I have not talked about this, so I want to hear what you do. Okay. So for me, before I even start, because I think a lot of people, they hear MedSup, or when they start talking about MedSups, in order to kind of show how a MedSup works, they pull up a quote engine and actually start shopping prices for MedSup.
Okay.
And then they start going into like Medicare Advantage plans. What I recommend, and when I do my 8-step selling process, I tell people, sell a MedSup or a Medicare Advantage first. Talk about the differences. Do not apply, a brand name. Don't apply anything to that. Just say what they are. And then once they decide they want to go one route or the other, that's when you start bringing up pricing. That's when you start bringing up brands. That's when you actually start your shopping process.
I do it very similar.
Okay, so what's your process to determine, like, when do you start bringing up, like, when do you start shopping MedSups?
So, and maybe this is wrong, but I kind of put, like, when I'm going over my pathways, I've got my, like, visuals of the 3 parts of original Medicare, and I do have price points on all of them. I just put, like, an average.
Right. I mean, that makes sense.
I put, like, an average on the MedSup, and as I'm going down explaining things, I'll say, it's going to be around this, but once I finish talking about all of your options, then we'll fine-tune the price based on what's right for you.
See, so, like, yeah, that's, I think, the perfect way of doing that.
Because
I think if you add, like, brands and all that stuff early,
definitely don't do brands.
So confused.
No. Well, and I didn't even have numbers on there originally, but everybody cares about the cost. So
that's very true.
I was constantly like, well, it's going to be around, so I just, like, put a number in there, so then we'll revisit it later.
And again, that's a huge differentiation between a MedSup and an Advantage anyway.
Yes.
The price point.
Right.
So that absolutely
you have to have,
sense.
like, a ballpark on there.
So the real part we want to get into is, again, when you are, so, like, once you know, you know. Once you know, you know. Once you know, you know. You get to the part where they're like, yes, I'm ready to actually start shopping for Medicare supplements. What is the next step? And that is the actual shopping process. Now, I use CSG. CSG is a platform. You can get it through Senior Marketing Specialist as a Senior Marketing Specialist CSG, or you can actually access it through Medicare Center as well, and that's the Integrity branded CSG. But these are the things that I always like to talk about whenever we're shopping Medicare supplements. Premium is actually one of the last things that I address.
Well, and I feel like it also has to depend upon, is this person guaranteed in or are they not? Because then you really have to focus on number one.
Oh, yeah. That's what, and again, we're spoiled in Missouri. And I say spoiled. There's other states. There's California, Washington, Nevada, Illinois, Idaho. And I always want to say Arizona, but it's not Arizona. But these states have something like that are birthday rules or anniversary rules to where, like, a lot of individuals, if you talk to an agent in Missouri, let me just ask you this. I hate to put you on the spot. When was the last time you, like, asked an underwriting question for a MedSup client?
A year, maybe?
Yeah. And again, that's super not common.
Right.
Most people, again, in other states, individuals do have to go through underwriting the majority of time with switching MedSups.
And that client was with somebody from Kansas. So it wasn't even a
Missouri client, right? So again, that's just something to keep in mind that, like, underwriting is huge. Like, for somebody who is diabetic and takes 50 units of insulin is completely fine for some carriers. It's a complete disenrollment or a canceled application for others. So underwriting is huge.
It's huge.
You need to make sure you kind of have a gist of what carriers are going to accept what. AM Best rating, this used to be a huge deal.
I feel like I run into this probably more because if you have somebody that knows the finance industry, they're familiar with these different rating systems.
Very true, yeah.
And so I surprisingly have a lot of clients that are like, what's the AM Best rating?
Right.
Which is the only of the, like, financial ratings that's just insurance.
Yeah.
There's Moody's and I can't even remember all the other ones. But
I know, like, the financial planners that we work with who also sell insurance, their E&O requires them to only use AM Best rated carriers.
Okay.
So that's why, again, AM Best used to be a big deal. It's a big deal when a carrier goes from, like, a B to an A. Yep. But a lot of, again, it's not the most important thing. It does say, like, financial health.
Right,
of that
financial
company.
Outlook, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next is rate increase history. I think that for sure, especially if you're outside of an anniversary or birthday rule state.
Absolutely.
One of the biggest things. That's why, again, like, why the brand name carriers are typically one of the top ones to go with.
Dogs.
Because they don't have the rate increases. Aside from, like, we all can say some names and be like, nuh-uh, in 2011, this company had a 20% rate increase. It is much more one-off because they insure so many lives.
Right.
They can handle more risk,
Yep.
so they don't have to. The biggest example of that is going to be United Healthcare. United Healthcare just had their first rate increase in a year and a half, and it was 7.5% or 7.9%. And again, I know a lot of people are like, "What? That's crazy!" Because United Healthcare, you're used to 2.5%,
Right.
4.5%. But again, that's still really low compared to a carrier we just got an announcement for that was like 16%.
16.
Yeah, it was a carrier name that you probably wouldn't even remember now.
My.
It's one of those carriers that were a flash in the pan.
Okay.
So again, if you are selling on price alone,
Right,
United Healthcare, Aetna, Humana, those ones that are more stable are not going to show up in the top 5 usually.
Absolutely.
So it's just making sure that you do have, something that you do talk about, at least let them know the risks.
Right.
Because there's nothing worse than somebody like, oh, I wrote somebody on this plan, and then a year later they now, like, their costs went up $30. It doesn't make you look good as an agent.
No, that's terrible. We do have a question.
Sure.
Sorry.
No, I'm just going to keep talking until somebody tells me to shut up.
Do you include price and information about D with presentation from Terry? Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the premiums, again, I don't get, I don't fine tune anything until I'm done presenting the whole differences.
So just to reemphasize, you teach them what Part D is, and then once they get there, you shop.
And
pricing.
on my little, cost, I put 7 to 100 is what the premium could be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and then we will fine tune which is most appropriate for you based upon your drug list.
I need you to say that again. What is most appropriate to you based on your drug list? Because Part D is kind of wonky because you can't say what's best because Part D with
I always say what's
best.
appropriate.
What's appropriate. And it's important to keep in mind when it comes
for
to Part
now,
D.
for this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Premium has little to nothing to do with which Part D plan's more appropriate for them.
The premium?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But completely.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's just, again, saying yes, this premium may be higher, but look how much it costs you over the course of a year versus going with this low premium no-name carrier.
Had somebody, this is a complete tangent, but I vividly remember a client of mine. She was on a $30 plan when that $7 Aetna Silver Script plan came out. She was like, I want to move to that plan. I was like, okay, well, we can't just look at premiums. Let me look at your drugs. There was $7,000 of difference. And I was like, this is why we do this. You cannot just look at premiums.
No. Michael, good morning, Michael. He says a new Medicare company had a lower rating starting at 2 years ago. First rate increase was 13% on Plan Up. And again, that's the norm. A lot of times these flash in the plan carriers, but you do have to include them. I'm not going to talk trash on them because those plans... that's kind of their MO, and a lot of clients will flock to that because they're okay. Well, fine, I'll just switch next year.
Right.
You just have to make sure that your clients are aware of the risks, and they're comfortable with taking that on.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next kind of thing that we like to talk about when it comes to differences in companies, specifically for MedSup, again, when it comes to Part D and things like that, very different list. If you guys are interested in that, we can talk about that, maybe next week. But customer service is something that my team has a ton of experience with because we call the carriers on the agent's behalf. So, we have a list of, who we do and do not want to call based on carriers. But, we can't do it for the consumer a lot of the time.
I was going a different direction with that. Yes, customer service of the carrier, but I was also thinking when you're shopping, you have to market your services. That's what I just had a meeting last week where somebody came in who she had so many different insurance policies with State Farm.
Really? Okay.
And had multi-line discounts, and her MedSup was cheaper to go with them. And I was like, I understand that, and we went over the cost and everything, but this is what I can do for you. And she was like, you're well worth the $15 or whatever, And so sell your customer service too.
I think that's such an important fact. It's what carriers you're going to call that's going to ghost you and never talk to you again.
Exactly.
There's several of that I know you guys all know about. But then more importantly, what are you going to do? If somebody is on a cheaper plan, if you only sold on price, then you're just going to be like, oh, your MedSup's cheaper, okay, thanks, bye.
Yep.
No, you got to say, okay, yes, but here's what you get with being my client, and this is how you become my client. I can't service your MedSup unless I'm the agent of record. Mm-hmm. So... beautiful.
And even after that, she didn't even go with what the lowest price was once. So she even ended up paying.
She even paid
more.
Even more than that. So interesting. And then the last one there being premium. In my experience, when it comes to working with beneficiaries, they care about really 3 things. Can I take my drugs? Mm-hmm. Can I see my doctors? And how much is it going to cost me?
How much is it going to cost?
So premium, and you're going to hear it. How many times have you heard, well, I'm on a fixed income?
90%.
Exactly. Literally, there's just
most
like
people retiring are on a fixed income.
For sure. But to be fair, like, so are most people working. Not hard, but it's just like I'm on a fixed income. So premium, it would be stupid to think that premium is not important. It is important, but it's not any more important, or it could be. Every client's going to value something different. You just have to make sure you're showing them the full picture.
Exactly. And also don't, at the same time, don't downplay premium, because these are people that they're literally leaving the workforce and are no longer having that steady income.
Yeah.
They're living off of maybe just Social Security or a small pension. And so don't downplay that the premium isn't important.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're going to downplay it, but, you can't. You have to be aware of it, but yes. So again, when we talk about tools to how do you shop this stuff.
Yes, and this is new to me.
I'm so happy that I know whenever I talk to you, I'm like, let's talk about this. Your lures were literally, ooh la la, yes. And it's because, again, there's a lot of tools out there that, when you talk about the quote engine, the CSG quote engine, majority of the reason people use it for is literally to see what plan is going to be cheapest. Mm-hmm. There's so much more that the Senior Marketing Specialist and Medicare Center Quote Engine does. This is me pushing one button. So I looked up, just took a quick screenshot of a 65201. That's where we're at here, 65-year-old female plan G. All I did over here to the left-hand side was click Market Analytics, and it told me everything. So literally everything that we talked, the only thing that this isn't going to tell you is customer service, but you as the agent, you should be telling that story. Mm-hmm. It tells you literally everything else that we discussed.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. It goes through the rate history. Does it just look back, what is that, 4 years?
It'll look back, I think up to 5 years total. But again, United Healthcare, I will be very transparent, is different because United Healthcare just recently came out with new paper. They're not like a Mutual or Aetna where they come out with they call it new paper, but a new name every few years. So it'll only show you basically what it's filed under that new paper. United Healthcare hasn't, they just recently for the first time ever filed quote unquote new paper under UHICA. Okay. So
I have a question that hopefully you can answer for me, and that I'm just embarrassingly asking this.
No, this is what I'm here for.
So when it says years in market, I forget which carrier it was. It was 2. Maybe it was Aetna. Aetna's been in the market for more than 2 years. Am I correct that it's that specific Plan G?
That paper. It is that paper. So United Healthcare, I just said, United Healthcare has never come up with a new plan. Mutual of Omaha. Mm-hmm. Mutual of Omaha was the first Medicare supplement written ever. It was the first ever Medicare supplement. But if you look at the website, it's going to say years in the market. It'll say 1 because United Healthcare is just recently, as of in 2 days, releasing a new plan in Missouri. So it's going to show been in the market for less than 1 year, even though that company's been in the market for forever.
Okay.
So it will show again based on that paper, but it's also good to know. One of my favorite parts on here actually is in the upper, on that plan where it says effective date, that shows the effective date of that premium. Why I love that, it lets you know, or no, excuse me, where effective it says...
you mean that should correlate with the...
Yes, no, where it says effective date there, that's effective date of the premium. So that lets you know how long those rates have been like that. So to let you know if it's been an anniversary of that policy or that plan being filed, so you can really better estimate when their rate increases are going to be.
Gotcha.
So if it says effective of June 1st, 2021, aka what this one says, you can expect them because these med subs will have rate increases annual. Yeah. And so you let you know they had these plans are effective for the last year. We can probably expect to see a rate increase coming soon.
I mean, I've learned a ton so far.
I'm just saying, if you guys are not familiar, if you're only using the CSG quote engine to look at premiums, it's crazy. A couple other things I'll show you over here, again, stuff that we talked about. On the left-hand side there, you can see where it says underwriting filters.
Ooh,
you can literally go in there. It's amazing. You can literally go in there and be like, I have a person who's diabetic. And it'll bring up, are they diabetic with insulin, diabetic with retinopathy, diabetic with all these things. If you click on it, it'll bring up on the other side where it says in their underwriting guide if it is or
it
is not
isn't.
approved.
Amazing.
So it does that for the med subs, it does that for the final expense, it does it for all of those carriers that you can quote through CSG. So again, like everything that we talked about,
streamlining a lot of my work that I'm doing.
it does. You don't have, it literally takes care of most of it.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, I had a lot of agents that actually asked me, CSG has a plugin that agents can put onto their website where it's like, here's a quote engine. But the trick is that, like, it's a consumer-facing quote engine. But the trick is that it doesn't give them all that information, and it doesn't give them the carrier names. It just gives them price.
Oh,
so the goal of that is to be like, so the client has to call the agent.
And ask.
I hate those.
Interesting.
Those are bait and switch tactics.
Yes.
I don't like them. Plus, you're training your clients that the company name doesn't matter.
Right.
None of those analytic matters, and the only thing that matters is premium. And if we've done nothing else today, hopefully we've shown that premium, though it is important, is not the sole reason how you sell
not the only thing. Absolutely not.
So
lots of other important things to consider.
For sure. And again, all of that can be done on the CSG quote engine, offered through a senior marketing specialist website, or if you're like a Medicare Center junkie like me, they do also offer this in the Medicare Center site.
They do, and now I know I have 2 new tabs I can use.
It's so perfect.
Can't wait to use them today.
So guys, that is what we had. I would love to hear from you guys. Any kind of expectations you guys had going in to today, any expectations you had going into like, oh, these people are going to try to tell me that I'm doing things wrong. I've been doing it this way for the last 30 years. I'll show them. If that's your thoughts, then like great, wonderful, that's fine. But I would also like to hear kind of like if we thought, why is my face doing
Our
thing?
Screen is frozen on a really silly face.
Anyways, I'd love to kind of hear your guys' feedback as far as, you know, if this is any different and will help you sell Medicare supplement policies.
We do have a question. Can you get all of those CSG analytics from a phone platform, or do you have to be logged in through a desktop?
You can do it through the application as well. It's going to look a little bit different, but you can absolutely apply those either in your phone browser or the CSG does have an app as well that you can use. Medicare Center does not have an app.
I was going to say, I don't think they have an app yet, do they?
Yet. But
tell us the word.
It's more things are coming. It's going to be a really cool AEP for technology.
Yay!
Thank you to Mom and Dad.
Hopefully, let's get it all straightened out and all the kinks out before AEP.
That was kind of my suggestion.
Not just go live October 15th.
It happens every year.
It does.
Well, and that's something, honestly, like, to address that, the reason why we had a lot of people that were like, I'm really upset, I can't look at these plans, and not all of my plans are uploaded. Like, last AEP, this happens every year, especially with Connecture. I can't see any of the plans until October 1. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say, well, I can't see all of my plans until October 15th. It's a CMS regulation. There's a lot of things that CMS, because Connecture can be consumer facing, they actually don't allow a lot of that data to be uploaded. So Connecture takes it on the chin for that. A lot of it is
You're a wealth
CMS.
of knowledge, Olivia.
I do very little here, but I can pretend to know a lot about a little.
And you're great at math, too.
Now we're just being cruel.
I'm just kidding.
I can also do this.
I don't know what I just witnessed. I don't know what I just witnessed.
That's what I bring to the table. Have you seen those things that's like, do it? Like the...
I don't know what you did.
You can't do it, can you? You can't do it, can you?
What? What happened? She's a magician!
I could also do this really cool arm thing.
I can do the hitchhiker's thumb. That's all I got.
That's just my thumb.
Yeah, that's my thumb.
Anyways, riveting content for everybody.
We'll have a whole episode of things we can't
Weird
do.
things you can do.
Yep. I don't think we had any more text.
Nobody has any questions on my
how
cool
to do
nose
that?
thing? You can also, take your hands like this. Okay, now cross them. Okay, now pull them together.
Yep. It is a trick.
Can't do it, can you?
What? Guys, does anybody else know how to do this?
Everybody at home, put your hands together. Cross them. Grab. Turn. You figured it out. So anyways, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on Medicare Cafe. Make sure you join our live stream. We do it every Tuesday at 10 a.m. We hopefully bring you some enlightening content. We do obviously record these, so if you didn't get to watch the whole thing, come back later. And then I also just want to say thank you guys so much for being loyal members of the cafe. Carrie and I love what we do and love that we get
it so much. It's a highlight of the week for sure.
Didn't you say, like, you put on a headband or something like that, and your daughter is podcast?
Yes, I like to wear headbands, and apparently I tend to wear them on Tuesdays, and I put one on not a Tuesday, and my daughter goes, podcast!
We get them trained. I love it. Oh, Sadie's like, now this is good content. We do what we can. This is how we deliver.
That's right.
So we'll see you guys next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Until next time, have fun.
Make money.
And give impeccable service. Thanks.